Olá a todos, bem-vindos ao podcast da Conversas do Leigo. Hoje comigo tenho Paul, o fundador do canal Everything Money, um investidor americano, e vamos agora falar algum tempo com o Paul, falar sobre os investimentos dele, tanto ações como outro tipo de investimentos, e portanto aproveitem que isto vai ser mega incrível. A partir de agora vamos falar naturalmente em inglês. Paul, how are you? Glad you are here with me.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I know we've talked a few times on Instagram and you're very nice. And so doing this podcast is going to be very enjoyable.
Okay, let's start it. We were talking about my experience with you, a different experience just watching you in YouTube. I was one of the first ones, and
Yeah.
when the OGs, I remember it at Discord, the
Yeah.
OGs. So, and I made a huge mistake, but you have to live with with your decisions, uh,
Yeah.
just to so people can understand. I was paying $8 for your subscription, and now it's 30 or more.
No more than if you pay for the year up front, it's close to 30. But if you do by month, I think it's 49.
Okay, I was paying $8 by month.
Yeah.
Crazy, crazy stuff, crazy stuff. I remember watching Mo's lives in
Yeah.
trading after lunch. For me, it's after lunch because the time zone it's very
Of
different. You
course.
are less 5 hours than here. So okay, crazy stuff. Um, so first thing I want to know is who is Paul?
Who is Paul? It's a good question. I'm an investor in the States. I own a company called the Crossroads Group. We have 7, 8 businesses under our umbrella. 3 or 4 are pretty large. I just got married 2 months and a week ago. Um, I'm a different guy. I used to, in the sense of what I used to be versus 10 or 15 years ago, I used to be completely obsessed with making as much money as possible. And now I'm all about enjoying life. I still like making money, but my desire to make the most money possible at every given second has changed considerably. It also helps that I have, good money in the bank, and I have enough for the rest of my life. So I get to choose what I do. I get to pick what I work on, and everything money has become a very important part of my life because I enjoy teaching, and I can actually get paid now to teach. And I think there's a lot of disconnect in the world on money and investing, and I'm hoping to bridge the gap between people's understanding of money and the reality of money from my perspective. And I understand I'm only giving my perspective, and there's multiple ways to skin a cat, as I always say. And my way works for me, but I'm hoping that everybody finds that their way will work for them.
Yeah, that's very nice because you always say that it's multiple ways of skin a cat. In
Yeah.
Portuguese, that sounds really, really strange, but
What
but
is the
it's true.
there's obviously a Portuguese way of saying it, not the direct one, but there's probably some other way of saying it.
Yeah.
How would you guys have said that in Portuguese?
Uh,
Like, what's a similar statement that Portuguese always say? Like, there's many ways to do one different thing. You don't have to always do the exact same way. Is there one?
uh, yeah, we say all roads uh, will go to Rome
Ah, yes. That's a good one. Yeah, we say that here
because
too.
yeah,
That's a
it's
good one.
we have more, but that's maybe one of the most known.
Yeah, and you have to pick the road that makes the most sense to you, and it'll go to your desired landing spot.
Yeah, and I think that's some 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 people make mistakes because they want to go with some other YouTube goes and like I don't understand Bitcoin or some coin that someone invented at a room, and I will buy it with my savings, all my savings, and I will be rich, or in my
Yeah.
mind just okay. That's very
Yeah.
nice. So why did you start investing?
I wanted to get really rich, and numbers always made sense to me. And I was 13, 14 years old, and the stock market started to really grow in the mid 90s. And I remember I became obsessed with Bill Gates. And still to this day, I'm a big fan of Bill Gates in many ways. And then I read about his friend Warren Buffett. And I just liked the idea of making money grow. And I liked the idea of understanding why money grew. And back then, I knew nothing about money. I was way ahead of my time back then. But, now I look at myself thinking, oh my gosh, that was terrible. And I hope that 15 or 20 years from now, I think the same thing about me today. You know what I mean? It's, I just wanted to become rich. And now I look back at that thinking how icky that is. But it sparked a long-term desire to um, understand things that I had questions about, I guess.
Yeah, and it started with this book, maybe this one. Oh, okay. I
Oh
have to
no,
go.
it did not. It did not. I didn't read that until late college, early after college. It started with The Millionaire Next Door, which I now don't
Okay.
even like that book. Funny thing is, I don't even like that book anymore, but it started with that. Um, and it just one thing led to another. You just keep learning and keep understanding. And every so often, your thinking shifts. And over time, it became what it is today.
Yeah, and I think I shared this vision with you. I started with you, with your channel. I watched some more channels, some speculating things, and then I started to unsubscribe and watched
Oh, wow.
more videos of your channel. And that value investing thing started growing in my mind. And now I have here with me The Intelligent Investor, one of the books I think some people like every people should read this. The little book that still beats the market,
Yeah,
because
it's a great book.
it turns it very easy. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's explaining to a child so everyone
Yeah.
can understand it. Yeah.
Well, I think what's important is that people have to realize that everything should be explained to you easily. If I really believe the idea that if you can't explain it in a simple way, then you don't understand it. And the best investors explain it very simply. And that's just a truth to that. It's just like the best doctors can explain how the body works very simply. The best physicists and astrophysicists can explain, and astronomers can explain the universe and different ideas very simply. And anytime somebody tries to complicate something, stay away. They probably
Yeah.
don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. And another book that goes with that, it's The Psychology of Money,
Oh,
right?
great book.
Yeah. I read it
Great book.
when you were always talking about it, and I think I have to read this just to make sure I'm not missing out. I
It's a
read
great book.
it in Portuguese, and now when people say, "Oh, what should I read? What should I read?" Okay,
Great book.
it start with this, and then you will read a lot of them.
I'll tell you what, I will say this. If you only read one book in your lifetime, one book, I think Psychology of Money is it. You tell
Okay,
me, Paul, you can only read one book about money the rest of your life. That's the book.
yeah, I had that. You answered one of my questions, so
Oh,
let's go.
good.
Let's go. Um, and the second one. Now I have to ask this. The second one. We have Psychology of Money. It's the first one and the only, if we have that question, and the second one.
Ego is the enemy. It's not about money. It's something that I work on extensively. It's about knowing that your biggest battle is going to be with yourself. Your biggest everything in the world that you fight with is internal. It's your interpretation of things. It's your own ego getting in the way. And this is something I can speak to forever about because, I look at my battles for the last 15 years. And 15 years ago, I'd say it's their fault, their fault that I'm having these feelings. And finally, you start to realize, no, it's you, your interpretation, your ego getting in the way. And don't get me wrong, I am still working on it every single day. But it's all about, if you start to understand that this world is not against you, that you're just a small piece of this entire world. And even though your world to yourself is everything, it's about how you interpret and how you assess what's going on and realize it's not against you. It's about how you view it. And I think for me, it really led to a lot of better understanding of how I need to be in this world and being accepting of my flaws, being accepting of other people's flaws, which is harder, but it's very important. And, also it helped me with investing because it made me realize the whole idea there's multiple ways to skin a cat in the sense of it's my interpretation of what I see out there. I used to say, and I still to a certain level, if you notice about Bitcoin, I say now, Bitcoin in its current state, I don't think works. But the shift in me is saying now that, well, the world could change the way in which Bitcoin is handled, operated, everything. Just like the internet. The internet was a bad investment 25 years ago. It didn't make the internet bad. It made the investments around the internet poor. And I used to fall for that same idea that these things are all tied together. It's like, no, they're not. Like they can be separate things. And even though I still think crypto and Bitcoin is not an investment, I have to acknowledge that I don't know the future. And it's my essentially ego in the sense of how I interpret things to sit there and say it's not going to work. And I still don't believe it's going to work in its current state, but I don't know the future. I don't know what they're going to change it to. So, that's the idea of ego is the enemy in many ways, but it's all about how you handle yourself and your interpretation of the world. And I just love it.
Since we are in the Bitcoin theme, we can go a bit further. What do you think about Bitcoins? Like Bitcoin can substitute gold. I don't think it will, but I would like to know your view.
Everything we have in this world has a value based on our determination of that value. I understand when crypto people say, you believe in the dollar, what's that backed by? The US government? I say, well, yeah, it's backed by something. Gold has alternative uses besides just some sort of store of value. Keep in mind, I don't invest in gold. I invest in gold miners, companies that mine gold and get it out to the world, but I don't invest in gold itself because to me, gold itself is a speculative asset. It's not going to make me any money just by sitting there. Bitcoin, I could understand somebody saying this is the strongest of crypto. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But when I look at gold versus Bitcoin, how many cryptocurrencies have existed in the last 5 or 10 years? 20,000, 30,000? How many different shiny gold? There's silver, there's a few other things that they aren't just being created here and there. It doesn't mean Bitcoin itself can't be the pillar of the crypto community. I just look at it saying, I think buying gold is speculative, much like buying Bitcoin is. To a certain element, but there's still other uses to gold that we don't have for Bitcoin. People will say, well, the blockchain can exist without being in it's technology. It doesn't need to be in Bitcoin to exist. And you'll hear different crypto people saying different things about it, which kind of confuses me. Some will say, no, it needs Bitcoin to exist. Some will say it doesn't. And that to me, and I'll be honest with you, the other issue is I look at the people who support Bitcoin and I'm like, I don't look at these people thinking they understand investing. It just feels very speculative. It's got a lot of volatility. I mean, gold doesn't have that volatility. It seems very speculative now, but I don't know what it's going to be in 10 years. I have no idea. Could it be something very, if the US government came and said Bitcoin is our official crypto, I would say two things. Okay. And it goes against what crypto was started to do, because do you think for a second that Portugal or the United States is going to let people make transactions without them being able to regulate it? Of course not. Of course not. The government doesn't want less regulation. They want more. So the very idea of what they created crypto to do is going to lose its value. And that's why I say crypto in its current state today probably will not be accepted by governments. So that was my long-winded way of saying I still think it's a very speculative asset. I mean, look at it. When the NASDAQ's up a lot, Bitcoin's up a lot. When the NASDAQ's down a lot, Bitcoin's down a lot. When they said it was a hedge against inflation, it wasn't a hedge against inflation. I look at that going, and then somebody tried to tell me, well, no, Paul, it reacted to inflation. That's the hedge. I'm like, that's not what I just don't get that. So anyhow, that's my long-winded answer of saying the fact that nobody's been able to explain to me the value behind Bitcoin tells me that there's a lot needs to happen before it's accepted as a replacement for gold or any other sort of asset that we say has value.
Yeah. Another thing is crypto guys or something like that say that it's a store of value, but they want it to be the coins world. So if it's a store of value, how can I pay with that?
And then you end up using it and they try to convert it to US dollars. And I'm like, so this is the weird part. It's like you want crypto to have its own value, yet you're always priced. I mean, I don't look at the pizza and say, how many Bitcoin is this? I look at a pizza and say, how many dollars is this? You know what I mean? That's and that might be a very simple way of looking at it. And that doesn't mean it'll stay that way forever. It could change. But what world we have to live in where the US government says, guys, we're no longer doing the US dollar. We're now doing Bitcoin. Let's roll. It's like, I don't know. Seems hard.
Yeah. Very hard,
Maybe.
I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Now I want to know more about something you have very unique about your channel, and it's your approach of the 8 pillar. Of the 8 pillar. If you can, you are the best person to explain it, not me. So what do you have to say about that kind of approach of stocks?
The 8 pillars were not created by me sitting down and saying, what can I call? It was created by Seth asking me, Paul, what are the things you look at when you look at a stock? And I rambled off all these things. And he said, how many is that? I go, no, that's 8 things. He goes, great, we're going to call it the 8 pillars. I said, okay, fine. When I think about business, those 8 things matter to me. Those are the things that I always found myself going to. It wasn't something I created. It was something that just happened naturally, where I would sit there and say, okay, when I looked up a company, those are the things I started to go through. And eventually I found myself going the same things over and over again as a way of, in my head, screening. It's by no means a method of buying. It's a way of understanding the story of the company. Do they have reasonable debt? Do they have reasonable do they have growing cash flow? Do they have growing revenue? Do they have growing profit? Are they getting a good return on the money in the business? Are they buying back shares? And then finally, what are their like how much they sell for as a multiple of their 5-year earnings and profit? But you'll see me in videos. I just did a video yesterday about NVIDIA. And I said, guys, ignore the 5-year pillars here. They're useless because NVIDIA's profit and free cash flow have gone up 500% in the last 5 years. It's unfair to NVIDIA to hold them accountable to those 2 pillars. So that's the whole idea of it, is to say, what is the story of these pillars telling me? That is why that is where it naturally happened, because I look at a lot of companies and I wanted a fast way to make sure I just sat there and said, okay, I can look at them now and say, oh, why are there 6 X's here and 2 checks here? Why are there 8 checks here? Or why that's the reason. It just tells me what to kind of like hey, this is what you should start digging into deeper. If a company had all check marks but an X on debt, my first comment is, okay, how serious is that debt? How is that debt of a concern? Because everything else checks out. This is good, but if there's too much debt, I might be worried of that one. So it was just created by me naturally over time looking at companies. And by the way, the original 8 pillars are different than we are today because over time I changed what I looked at in a company. So that's
I think it's important to say that it's like a screener.
Yes.
It's not, if it's as all checks, it's a buy. It's not like
Nope.
that. Okay. And then that you have to dive deep in the 10K, things like that. Okay. Is this
go
right?
answer the questions you have. Yeah, go answer the questions that you have about the company. It's all about like, you have an onion. You're peeling back the layers. I don't invest by getting to the core. I invest by buying companies that I only have to pull back 2 or 3 layers. I can make a decent decision, but I'm not going to make as much money. But that's what works for me because I'm pretty lazy. I don't want to sit there and always have to be constantly thinking about what I'm buying. I want to buy a good company I want to buy a great company at a great price and hold it for a very long time, as long as it stays a great company. That's it.
And you are big in the term margin of safety.
Yeah.
What percentage do you think it's the best for you?
So it depends on the company. But for me, since I like larger companies, I'm looking for, so we have our stock analyzer tool in our software. I always put 9% as my return for what's intrinsic value. So I want margin of safety. I want a higher return. I usually want between 11 and 13%, depending on the company, depending on the situation. Look at a company like NVIDIA. I probably want more than that because I worry about NVIDIA's revenues. Are they going to fall down? Is it just a lot of growth very quickly and then it falls? I don't know, but I want 11 to 13% depending on the company. And people got to remember, over a long period of time, that's a big difference. A big difference. That's not small. But if I was buying a really small company, I'd want returns of 15 or 20% because there's more risk, less likely to stay in business, competitors out there, et cetera. So it depends on the situation. But for me, in large companies like 10, $20 billion market cap or more, 11 to 13% makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
For me.
I think most people just neglect margin of safety. It's like they calculate what they have to do, the valuation of the company, and if it's the same, okay, I'll buy it. And
then I tell them, just buy an ETF then. Why buy a company for what it's worth? Just buy the ETF. Don't think. And I say that in the videos. I'm like, guys, if you're just going to want the 9 or 10% return, just buy an ETF. Don't waste your energy and time trying to do this. Just buy an ETF.
Yeah. It's a lot easier.
A lot easier.
Personally, I just buy ETFs right now.
Great.
Just S&P 500 and the GDX and GDXJ just to
good for you.
To make sure it's like a security to inflation. I think I like it. I like it this way. It's a small percentage compared to the S&P. So, but it's because I have to spend time working every day. I have to spend time with my family, with my friends, and with this, with my interviews, my Instagram page, things like that. And right now, I don't have the time to check stocks, check valuation, things like that. So I'm really young, I think. I'm 26. Just so I made my calculations, and I think I will have a very nice amount of money for my retirement. It's my plan.
Yeah.
Because
And
I
if you,
think I don't know. Oh, right. I know you don't have. We call it social security. It's
we
like
have that here.
you have it. Okay,
Yeah.
we have it here, but I don't think I will earn like 20 or 20%. That's my current salary, so I have to get prepared because I want to when I get to 60 or something like that, I want to have a good life. So I
Yeah.
think the ETF is the best way. It's not the best way. Oh, I'm going to correct this. It's the easiest way.
And by the way, usually easiest is best. That's the
That's
big thing.
yeah.
That I gotta tell people, simple is better. Easy is better. Listen, I've changed myself. I've started to say I'm gonna do a lot of ETFs. I don't have any ETFs besides GDX and GDXJ right now. But when the markets settle down, I'm going to buy SPY, SCHD, and QQQ. Because the other realization I've had lately is I have more than I need. So why take risk of ruining that? Just do what I need and move on. That's it.
You started to answer two questions that I have here, and one of them is you say in your channel that you came from money. You
Yeah.
you are not ashamed of that, and you
No.
shouldn't be. It's normal. It's life. It
Fine
is
by
what
it.
it is.
I'm sure
Um,
everybody who would criticize that wishes they came from money, right?
yeah, it's you don't choose where you're born, so it's to the worst and to the best. So,
Yeah.
um, do you have fear of losing uh, the things that your past family grew? Like
No.
you are investing.
No.
How do you deal with that, or you just don't
Well,
have it?
I first off, I've made us a lot of money as well.
I think
I've
that's
proven
a
I have the
big
ability.
difference.
Yes, that's a big difference. You know, I when I first started in business, every so often I would still look for jobs in case, just look at them and say, hey, what do these things do? Pay in case, And now I look at it saying, I would make a great living if this all went away tomorrow. Um, I look at the real estate. I look at all these things that I do that money itself is nothing. What you do with the money is everything. And I always joke with some people who say like, man, Paul, if I had your money, and my comment back is, if you had my money, you'd be dead or broke right now. And I mean that to be funny because people think just having money makes life a lot easier, and it can in many ways. But money magnifies. If you're an addicted person, if you get money, your addictions are going to go crazy. If you're a mean person, when you get money, you're going to be even more mean. If you're a nice person, you're going to be even more nice. If you're responsible, you can be more responsible. My biggest mistake financially was shorting NVIDIA. And I always hear these stories about how much money I lost. And I laugh because it was a lot, don't get me wrong, but it was 6 or 7% of my money, which is a lot, but nowhere near what would cause me to ever worry about it. You know what I mean? Like the other thing is I've been out of the market since COVID, except for like the last year and a half, I've been buying more stocks and things like that. But I have real estate, I have businesses, and every year my net worth goes up. And for me, what matters to me is making investments that make sense to me. And having money, and coupled with that, realizing that I don't need to become a billionaire tomorrow to be happy. That has gotten me to accept more about what my responsibility, my responsibility of having money is being a good steward of the money, making sure I manage it well, make sure I don't abuse it. And guess what? Ever since I got back together with my now wife, we spend very well. We don't buy things we don't want, but we enjoy life. We don't spend just to spend. We travel a lot. We buy things for the kids. We take the kids on trips. I've left money to my nieces, my grandkids. I have one already. I have one on the way, and I'm hopefully going to have 6 or 7 more. But I'm not going to give them absurd amount of money. My job is to teach them to be good stewards of the money. And unfortunately, with most people who inherit money, that's not the case. I was lucky in my situation, and I've made a lot of great decisions with money, and I've made a lot of bad decisions with money. And that's the reality of everybody. The question is, what are you going to do to... All you can do is figure out what money means to you, which is big in psychology of money, and how you get to that state for yourself. That's why psychology of money really changed. I mean, it really shifted how I thought for that reason.
Yeah. And it says too that only having money means nothing, because it's as the story of the lottery winners.
Yeah.
Almost always, I don't know now the stats, but lose, or they come broke after that some years or something like that. But it's a big percentage.
It's like 80%. And so, you know what the funny thing is? I used to consider my worth as a being as my net worth. And I told my brother just yesterday, my brother and I were talking. And I said to him, Mikey, I could not care less about my net worth anymore. What I care about is, do I have the money to live the life I want to live? You know, in psychology of money, he talks about the guy who has $100 million and he's skipping $1,000 coins across the water. And he was broke in a matter of 10 years or whatever number of years. And then he talks about the janitor who died with $8 million because he just saved and saved. And guess what? Both are extremes. I used to be on the extreme of save, 80%, 85% of what I made. Now I save like 40% of what I make. Maybe 50% on the high side. I enjoy life way more, but because that's the liberty that having money has given me, the ability to enjoy life more. Not have to worry about, like the other day, you guys have DoorDash. Do you guys have DoorDash in Portugal?
DoorDash, it's
delivery for food. Delivery for food.
Yeah, we have Uber Eats, Bolt.
Uber Eats. I know this sounds stupid, but one of the benefits of having money is I can order an $8 salad, but pay $20 to have it delivered. You know, pay $12 extra to have it delivered. And to me, I don't care. Like, to me, I don't want to leave my house. But if I make a lot less money, that matters. That, to me, it used to be, oh, I want to have a lot of money so I can have 20 cars. No. Now I want to have a lot of money so I don't have to think about flying to a lake house to enjoy a weekend. That doesn't bother me. That's the luxury of money. It's not buying 20 cars. I used to want 20 cars. Now I have 5 with my wife and I, and I'm like, we have too many. She's like, yeah, we do. And I literally just sent a text to somebody to sell 2 of them. Because I'm like, why do we have 5 cars? We don't need 5 cars. You know what I mean? But I can afford 30 cars. I can afford 50 cars. But that's the point of money now, is to me, it's how do I make my life more enjoyable and how do I make my life easier? Not how do I have more stuff. But I like having stuff. I have watches. I have a lot of watches. But I saw a watch the other day that I can easily afford 100 times over with the money in my bank account. You know what I said? I don't need it. I already have enough. I didn't buy it. And if I do decide one day to buy it, I'll sell another watch to buy that one, because I've changed how I view things. And I wish, and people will say, oh, it's easy to do that when you have money. No, it's hard to do that when you have money. When you can buy everything, it's hard to not buy everything. It's very difficult.
At the end of the day, it's freedom. You are free.
It's freedom.
Financially free, financially, geographically. You can be wherever you want because you have money.
Yes, correct.
So you said you were out of the market. Please, Paul, just let me know if you have to go or something like that.
I was just looking at the clock. I have half an hour.
Okay. You think we are in a bull or bear market right now? Because you said you went to stocks like year and a half before. So what do you think?
I still think we're in a bull market, but bull markets have to end sometime and valuations are very, very high. I've been able to find some stocks that sold at reasonable prices 18 months ago, a year ago. Now it's harder. It just naturally makes it harder. And I'm also not looking at small companies, I'm looking at big companies. And the more a bull market runs, the more and more the bigger companies go up and up in value. I don't know when the bull market's going to end. Maybe it ended yesterday. Maybe it ends tomorrow. I don't know. That's what the mistake I made 4 years ago was thinking COVID was the start of a big bear market because valuations were very high back then. I've learned that lesson saying, you know what, Paul, you don't know when the market's going to end. And I would have killed to buy Google at the COVID lows of 2020 because now the value that I paid for Google is way higher than that. But that's the whole idea of timing the market and realizing you don't know where markets are going to go. Your job is to buy great companies at great prices. And if they go lower, buy more of them. That's it.
Yeah, I agree with you in that. Even though it's difficult sometimes.
It's very difficult.
I bought Alibaba, and
Oh,
I saw it going under, and I bought a little bit more. Then it came to like even, and I think, okay, I'm going to sell this because I think it's like the macroeconomy with China. I don't see it very well. I don't understand it. So
brilliant.
I think I'm going to close this with it was even, and then ETFs. I bought more
Yeah,
of
good for
S&P
you.
with that.
But here's the thing you got to remember. What you just said there was wise beyond your years. It's hard to sit there and say, I don't understand this, therefore I'm not going to buy. Because you know what FOMO, fear of missing out, I don't know if people understand who are watching this term in
Yeah,
the US.
I think
Everyone
so.
is afraid to miss out on some amazing thing. But you got to remember, if you don't get it, if you don't understand it, you're not going to understand when it falls, why that it's okay that it's falling. So that's the thing. So for you to say, I don't understand this, that's what I feel about crypto. The crypto people can be right about it. I don't see it. So I just choose to be out. And they say, well, you're missing out. I'm missing out then. Okay. I missed out on NVIDIA. Okay. I'm fine with that. It doesn't bother me. What bothers me is when a stock falls and I don't buy it because I buy into the stories that are going on about it. That bothers me.
I'm just waiting because I didn't live enough to. I'm just waiting to hear people saying stocks are bad, and then I will
Yeah.
go with everything I
I
have.
It's been a long time since I've heard that. It's been a
Yeah,
very, very long
I
time.
think
We will hear it again. We will hear
yeah,
it again
I
someday.
think here in Portugal it's a bit difficult to hear that because people
Yeah.
are not involved with stocks like you do. Um, Here, stocks are like casinos. The first
Yeah.
time, I told someone that I'm going to start investing in stocks, people said to me, "What are you doing? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
It's that's just for someone that has a lot of money." I
Oh,
said,
no.
"Okay,
Good for
okay,
you. Good for you
I'm
being
going to
different.
start this," and just I think um, young people like in my age here are changing a little bit, but it's a small percentage. A lot of
Good for
people
you.
here, we don't have that much money, as I told you,
Right.
and it's a lot of people that are living paycheck to paycheck, things like that, and it's really difficult here. I'm in a position, I'm not rich, far away from that, so but I'm in a position that I can afford to have my apartment, paying the bills, and then uh, I have some money just to spend to live my young years, and some money to invest too. But
Yeah.
I was in London this week, so I spent some money.
London is expensive.
Yeah, London is expensive. So if you
Yeah.
say that, here we in Lisbon, maybe if I go to not the best restaurant, not so far, a medium restaurant, I pay 50 euros maybe for two. Uh, in London, I went to a Italian restaurant, Italian and Spanish, something like that. Uh, okay, it was near the London Eye at the center,
Oh,
and
yeah.
basic plate, something like that, 80 pounds. It
Yeah.
was. I was a bit
It's tough.
okay. Here things are a little expensive, much
Yeah.
more than here in Portugal. Even though
Yes.
Lisbon it's turning a bit expensive too, and our real estate is hot, is really hot.
Yeah.
We have some apartments that are nice for 1 million, something like that, in Lisbon, the in the nicest areas. It's like that. It's hot for our salaries. So I think it's not for us, for the Portuguese. It's for the foreigners that want to
Yeah.
spend money. Okay, and it's nice for us, to our economy too. Um, Another question that I have is about the American dream.
Yeah.
When I told some of my followers that I was interviewing American investor, they said, "Oh, please ask him about the American dream. Is it really possible? Is the way they tell us in YouTube?" What do you have to say about this?
So remember, I was born in the Middle East. My family's from the Middle East. We are living the American dream. My parents came to the US with $3,000. They were doctors, fortunately, though, and, built it up. Um, Everything is possible. You can live the American dream in Portugal. It's on you. The reason that YouTube is so great, the reason that you can go look at people's experiences. Now, the problem is on social media, people lie about things and they show a lifestyle that isn't real. But if you find some authentic creators and you're willing to do the things that need to be done, anybody can make money nowadays, especially as the world gets bigger and bigger and the internet gets bigger and bigger and easier access. You can do more and more. 30 years ago, I couldn't import things from China as a business owner. If I want to import a container of anything I want today, I go to Alibaba.com, find some people. We've done it. And you just order it and it comes to you. The world's a lot smaller now from the standpoint of how easy. Look at you and I. If you were born in 1998, right?
And 7, because
97.
my birthday it's in December.
Okay, 1997. In 1997, if you were 26 back then and I was 43, we are not talking.
Yeah,
Ever.
that's true. Yeah.
Ever. We're never going to have a conversation. You're not going to know who I am. I'm not going to know who you are. You're not going to be. Look at celebrities. And I'm not a celebrity, but you messaged me on Instagram and I happen to catch your message. I get lots of messages on Instagram and Twitter. I don't see all of them. And I happen to respond. I've had friends message celebrities on social media and they get responses. The world's a lot smaller from that perspective. Do you know what I mean? It's a lot easier to understand what everybody's doing and how they're learning and how they're. Look at ETFs. Look at value investing. In the late 90s, I didn't think value investing existed. Nowadays, you have people on the internet talking about it, and a guy like you can say that makes sense. If I was in 1999 watching a YouTube channel of a guy like me, I'd have said, that makes sense. Let me learn more, right? So the world is bigger from a geographic, from a physical standpoint, but from a digital standpoint, we're so much smaller. So much smaller. Last time I was in London, I pull into the hotel, I get out, go to the front desk. A guy comes up to me and says, "Hi, Paul." And I thought he's a concierge at the hotel. And I thought he just knew who I was checking in. I said, "Hey, how are you?" He's like, and he told me his name. He goes, I'm a follower of yours. I'm like, oh, thank you. He goes, we've messaged on Instagram. I go, you're that guy. I mean, what a small world.
Yeah.
What a small world we live in, that I was messaging with the guy like 2 weeks before. And there he was. And he didn't know I was coming to London. He didn't know where I was staying. And he just happened to be working at that hotel. This world, you can learn from everybody in the world, but you can also be scammed by everybody in the world. So it's important to understand who you're paying attention to and why. And it's also important to hear other opinions, not for the sense of to understand your opinion, you got to know what opinions are bullshit. You know what I mean? And you're going to understand what opinions are bullshit based on what you hear. You've got to hear bullshit to know it's bullshit, and you got to hear good stuff to know it's good stuff, and other stuff is bullshit. So that's kind of how this all works together, and how anybody can achieve the American dream no matter where it's at. It's just about finding the right product or service that you can sell.
Yeah, that's really nice. I never thought about that, and it's true. I'm here with you, like we are not in the same room, but
But we
it's
are.
really similar too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have this question that I really have to ask.
Okay.
It's, which metric is the most important for you when you are evaluating a stock?
So this is a question I get a lot. At the end of the day, the multiple of earnings and free cash flow are going to matter the most. What determines that multiple is important, but at the end of the day, whatever that determination is, there's a number that's too high, and there's a number that's low and good. That's the multiple. If you just bought based on multiple of earnings and free cash flow blindly, like the little book that beats the market, you would do just fine. You would beat the market over long periods of time. Every year would be up and down. I don't know, but that's the metric at the end of the day, that if you put a gun to my head and said you can only buy on one metric, that's the one I'm buying on: price of free cash flow.
Nice. I knew you would say that, but I had to ask. If we have 10 more minutes, we
Yeah,
can
we do.
do here some. I have three questions to you. It's like a this or that. Okay?
Okay.
It's like stocks or real estate.
Gun to my head, I have to pick one the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Real estate.
Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger. I know
Charlie
this
Munger.
one.
Charlie Munger.
You can say why?
I think he's more authentic, or he was. I like his bluntness a lot more. He was a lot more willing to be rude and mean. And he went to the University of Michigan, where I went, so it's kind of a little biased there. But yeah, I like him for those reasons.
Yeah, because Warren Buffett is always the idol of all investors,
Yeah, that's probably
and
part of the reason why too.
I'm currently reading I don't know, it's in
Snowball?
English, Snowball. Yeah,
Oh, great book.
yeah,
Great book.
and Warren Buffett is always very polite to everyone. And
Yeah, I don't like that.
okay, and the third and last, knowledge or networking?
Oh, knowledge. You can, I'm a believer that with the right knowledge applied, the network will find you. Look at me. I mean, I made videos, and the network had to find me. I couldn't find them. I had to put videos out, and I had to learn how to put videos out. That knowledge helped me do all these things. Some of these YouTubers who are, I think, scams, the lack of knowledge will end up showing when the market has a bear market. Networking is great and it's very important, but people will sift out bullshit very quickly eventually. The network will stop if you don't have validity and knowledge behind it. So knowledge for sure.
Okay. I think that's very interesting, because the most knowledge you have, the most people will want to hear you.
Yeah.
And I have very small knowledge about this, investing and stuff like that.
Maybe.
That's why I'm interviewing people, because in Portuguese, my name, the nickname that I have, it's Leigo, and it's someone. It's like a rookie. It's someone that
Oh,
doesn't know but wants
oh,
to know.
gotcha. Like an
And
amateur.
yeah, it's okay.
Good.
Amateur is better. It's someone that doesn't know a lot, knows something, but and wants to learn more.
Well, that's
So
me too.
I think we are. Everyone is in certain point. In
Of course.
levels, you are in a different level than me.
Maybe so, but it's you're right. But at the end of the day, it's the second you start thinking, listen, I have confidence in my stock abilities, my real estate abilities, et cetera. I have confidence in that. But there's always the fear of what don't I know that I I have immense confidence in my real estate. But yet the other day, I was asking my manager of real estate, I said, we have 1,000 apartments we own. I said, who can we learn from? She's like, we got to find somebody. I'm like, there's got to be somebody out there who does this better than us. Who can we learn from? And I'm not saying that as a pat on the back, but it is kind of a pat on the back saying, I truly meant that. Like, well, what are we doing wrong that we don't even realize we're doing wrong that we could do a lot better? You know, that
Yeah,
matters.
and everyone has to know that we even even though we are in a very good position, we have something to learn with someone
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
doing better. So to maybe to start closing, I
Yeah.
always ask three questions at the end of my guests. It's not
Okay. Of
because we are talking. I don't like to say
course.
guest, but okay. And it's about advice. And it's
Uh-huh.
the best advice, the worst advice, and the advice you would like to to say to everyone. Something
Great
like that.
question. The advice I say to everybody, I'll start backwards. Get more stuff done. At the end of the day, whoever learns the fastest, when I say fastest, I don't mean like literally learns, whoever reads the most, whoever does what needs to be done quicker will advance faster. That's just a reality, right? The best advice I ever received, be yourself in a sense of multiple ways to skin a cat. You've got to do what makes sense to you. You heard me saying this thing, I'm very lazy. Do I really think I'm lazy? No. But am I lazy? Yes. I'm always looking for the easier way to do something. Is it laziness? But it's fun to say I'm lazy. When 25 years ago, I would have been upset if somebody said that to me, right? Because you have to sit there and say, I'm busy, I'm all this stuff. So be yourself was the best advice. And the worst advice I ever received was, I guess somebody, I don't know.
No,
Let me
normally
think about that. Go ahead.
that's the question that most people like. What's the worst advice?
You know
Normally,
why? Go ahead.
normally people say the advice they want to give to other people and the best, but they forget about the worst. It's
You know why?
usual.
They forget about it because we realize how bad it is and we just get rid of it in our head. Maybe we just go, that was stupid. I'm not going to listen to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I've,
yeah.
I've had people give me advice in specific situations that was stupid, but it wasn't like it was catastrophic. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't really know the worst advice, but I do know the best advice was be yourself, but it applied in different ways. And the advice I give to everybody, whenever I teach a class, get shit done. I don't care what you do in life, get shit done. The more you get done, the more valuable you'll be to whoever you work for, and the closer you'll get to hitting your goals. That's it.
Yeah. And let's focus in that, the best
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah.
Paul, it was immense pleasure to be with you.
Thank you.
Sorry
I enjoyed it.
if I'm had some mistakes here about my English, and because sometimes it's difficult. Uh, and when you
You
have
did
the
great.
pressure, just imagine I was in London and I spoke sometimes better, sometimes worse. But when you have this small thing here in front of my
Yeah.
head, oh my God, it gets
You
it
did
gets
wonderful.
really difficult.
Your English is great, and I'm sure it's going to get better over time. You did great.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. And it was a really pleasure. I think my subscribers will love it. And thank you of what you are doing in YouTube because it's amazing. Even though you are earning money of that, and
Oh yeah,
I regret. I have a big regret. You know what it is. I don't want. I don't
yeah.
want to talk about it. But yeah, it's
Make
really
sure you.
nice. It's really nice.
Well, we'll work on. We'll figure something out. But make sure you send me the link for this once it's done.
Okay, okay.
All right.
And uh, I think my subscribers should subscribe to Everything Money,
Oh, thank you.
and because
Thank you.
it's really nice, and the curve that you have is incredible. Your show is
Thank you.
incredible.
Thank
Paul,
you very much. I
thank you very
appreciate it.
much, and goodbye.
Take care.